Beloved brothers and sisters. Just taking a moment to drop in, allowing yourself to drop in. I don't know how many of you allow music to unlock your body, unlock your being, but allowing yourself to just drop in a different way, right? We get very serious on this journey called life, very serious on our spiritual journey, but do we allow ourselves to unlock in joyful, playful, expansive ways? Is that something that we allow ourselves to be in even when there are things that are heavy? Do we move the heaviness? Do we allow the joy to transmute the grief? Do we allow our being to be an upbeat expression of transmutation? Because this journey is a journey of polarity into neutrality. And it is fun. And it's also fucking hard. And that's okay too. So I am Geeia Ariati, and I felt like I wanted a bit of a deep house soundscape for this transmission. And I am of sound heart and sound mind, knowing that this will be a little bit different and that, yeah, move, dance, and be a little bit excited in what we're moving into, because what we are moving into has not existed on this planet before. And I'll say that again, this tipping point is allowing us to access roles, responsibilities, creations, connections, relationships, modalities of spirit and matter merging into union. The union timeline is where we are going in the new earth. So that's inner union and outer union. But how do we have a truly unified connection and relationship? We have to deconstruct the false templates. We have to dissolve the distorted lenses of what that actually is. Because true union, we don't need anything outside of our source connection. Because when we connect to that true unified self, that shows us exactly what is there to be created so that we can have all things. The human construct believes that without this, I can't have this. And so the idea is that if I don't have a man in my life or I don't have a woman in my life, then I can't create X, Y, and Z. And this is the very false narrative of the human reality that keeps us locked in codependency, keeps us suppressed from our power, keeps us from creating the relationships that we truly desire because of the attachments, because of the false narratives that I can't hold myself in all of my potency, that I cannot be of the fullness of my divine feminine flow expression without man, and vice versa. This is no different. Man, woman is a mirror to each other. That as we have these ideas that to be in my fullest service, I need another, we break down the very possibility of actually creating the other or the space for the other to show up. And so a lot of us are moving through these false relationship narratives, and the women are actually unlocking these patriarchal constructs that have kept them limited and entrapped. And so what's happening for a lot of the divine feminine at the moment, I'm like, I've got to bounce with this. What's happening to the divine feminine at the moment is that the feminine energy is actually recognizing all the places that they've misused their power. Now, that's their responsibility. They have allowed themselves to be tricked. They have allowed themselves to be controlled. They have allowed themselves to be entrapped into this false matrix paradigm of what woman is to man. And this is crumbling very, very, very drastically. And there is these very real emotions that need to be met of the resentment resentment for where I gave my power up to man, the resentment and the anger for where I allowed myself to be manipulated into creating something that wasn't my truth, where I have held myself back, where I have dimmed my light, where I have been less than the pillar of who I am in the hope, need, desire of union or being side by side with an individual. And that these stories that have ridded our psyche for this entire reality from the very Anunnaki days, where the distortion templates came in of what man and woman are to each other, not inequality. There has never, ever been union in equality on this earth. And that is a very real truth, is that man and woman have not been in their individual roles in unification with source. And that is what we're stepping into, but we cannot step into it whilst we have these false realities here and these distortions. And this is the opportunity. That's quite upbeat. Hang on. I was like, okay, we're going to flow with it. We're going to allow it to activate aspects. I didn't want anything with voice, so I did ask for instrumental. That's okay. Allowing whatever this track is, which I will also place in the description box below so that I don't get barred from social media for copyright. Okay, let's just tune into this. All right. So, how often do you allow yourself to resist the flow of what has arrived for you to change? There we go. We've got a different tempo octave of my channel that wants to be expressed at a little more depth in my sacral chakra and my solar plexus as I communicate this to you. Have you adjusted your tempo to receive? And so what is taking place is this opportunity for us to look at our narratives of unification so that we can allow the true representation of the divine feminine, the divine masculine in union with God, unified as the pillars that they are. And at the moment, we are not working in union. There are very few individuals on the planet that have come to this place of being the true divine feminine, the true divine masculine, and working in togetherness. There is still a push and pull that's taking place for the majority of beings, where there is one that is dominating the relationship and one that is submitting. And it's not that this is wrong. It doesn't mean that they can't work through this together, but it's about being very real around the constructs that are coming up to be worked through and moved through. And so the masculine are working through either being suppressed in their emasculation and rising into a more holistic expression of their masculinity by allowing this ability to no longer use the control, but instead the conviction, the strength, the stability of their own channel to walk in the pillar of their own interpretation of who they are from truth. And so there are these roles that are taking place, these pauses, this one that wants to accelerate, whether it's the man or the woman in the relationship, whether you are in a connection. But what is coming up is this balancing point to see through the mirror of each other, where I've been either holding myself back, waiting, and I've actually been filling someone else's cup for them rather than allowing for them to come and meet. So there's this enabling. There is a lot of enabling taking place where I've been the giver, right? I've been the one that's putting this energy in. I've been doing most of the healing work for both relationships. And there's a pulling of this energy back that is taking place in relation to the rise. And if you're in the masculine expression, you're feeling that and will start moving through a point of where I have blamed the feminine for where I'm not holding myself, where I've blamed the feminine because I actually gave my power up to her and I haven't allowed myself to cultivate it within, where I'm still receiving the validation for being seen in my masculinity, that I need a woman to validate me so that I can be seen in the potency of who I am at the moment. And these constructs of not just the patriarchal distortions, but the matriarchal distortions are coming up for us all to work through together. We're using them individually and then also recognizing that some people are just not choosing to do this work, and that's okay. But where are you playing into this divine union, twin flame connection, man woman relationship aspect that you're not honoring your path? And where you're not allowing yourself to come into the totality of who you are, into seeing yourself, into validating yourself, into allowing the other situations in your experience to validate the sense of authenticity. Now, validation is something that's very present. And we validate ourselves in our false story so that we can keep our illusion, and we gather up enough validation to say this is what's true and real. Or we can validate ourselves in the recognition of what we actually are. Because when you start to remember who you are, when you start to truly see the expanded expression of your consciousness, when you start to remember your path, why you came here, you do require validation, because your human identity is going, you're not that. How could you be that? How could you possibly be here on this reality to make this much change? Oh, you think that you're going to be someone who walks the path of Christ? This is going to come up. You're going to have all of these infiltration thought forms that you can't be unified, that you can't attend to yourself into a level of transcendence where you leave the ego behind. Who are you to believe that that's possible? There are not that many people in history that have actually done that. What would make you so special, right? So there is a validation piece of meeting individuals and listening to people like myself that are coming into this space of attainment, that have come to this cultivation. And guess what? It doesn't look like your story of your mind had decided it looks like. It looks very messy. It looks very real. There is this crazy personality. It's not a Zen master that sits on a mountain. To be this walking, talking expression of God is to be all energies all the time in whatever that flows through at whatever experience. And so that is some being that's actually really happy to be in her fullest expression, listening to house music in the background that has come to learn to express and facilitate in a way of authenticity so that you can receive different parts of me that I've cultivated, grounded, anchored, so that you can receive this within yourself and step out of the judgment, step out of the idea of what it is to be an authentic expression of your own unified self. And once you're stepping into your unified pillar, that you can be that in all experiences. That's what we're stepping into, the being of all of me, without suppressing, without waiting, without holding, without doing it because I feel there is a narrative that I have to do it for this reason. And so these union templates are crumbling in that I need to. What is it around union, my story around male and female, that is actually stopping me from being my authentic pillar, my unified self? What are those fragments? What is it that is being mirrored in my relationships where I'm still blaming, projecting, wronging, and pointing the finger outside of myself so I can turn it back in? Why do I want to fix this person? Why do I want to rescue them? Why do I want to pull them up? Why do I want to push them away? Why do I want to say that they're the reason for the chaos in my life? Why do I want to say that they're the reason I don't have peace because they bring the drama? What is my narrative around the unification or the relationship dynamics of man and woman that are playing out very strongly for us to break down these constructs so we can come into our own unified self? Why do I feel that I need to keep this story intact? Like, what is the story actually allowing if I go, okay, this is the story of my mind, of my human identity, of my psyche. And if I was really honest with why I'm keeping this story there, what would be the truth underneath the story? Because the human being, and many of you are going to be going through this realization at the moment, is that your past stories that you've been placing on top of your reality now don't fit, right? The energy, oh, okay, we've got a tempo change. Let's find a new tempo. The reality of the old story, the old unworthiness, the old shame, the old family dynamic, that actually doesn't fit what you're traversing through now, because the energies have shifted. You've done the work. What has been is not now. And so, this new expression to come into the purified, unified self needs to see that what is playing out in your reality is not what has been. It is not the people that you've seen. The way that you're seeing people, you're seeing them through an old lens of an old narrative that is not truth. And so, this shattering of the illusion to come into union of yourself and other needs to collapse this idea that what you have been is your now. And so the narrative of the old unified story, the old relationship story, the old I am this story, the old this is what I attract into my experience story must start to disintegrate so that you can see the truth of what's wanting to come through, because we're in a lot of reclamation energy. We're in a lot of solidification of power. We're in a lot of rising, right? Not just the feminine rising. We can use the feminine as the form of the spirit is rising, but we as man and woman are rising together, but we also need to unmesh, detangle ourselves from these distortions that have like linked us together into this like man and woman are the same, and actually pull ourselves into autonomous expressions of our own masculine and feminine. And so this feminine rise is the feminine energy. It's not the woman arising, and it's not that men are staying behind, because that's an inaccurate and distorted lens of truth. And this feminine rise, yes, women are a little more advanced than most men in our reality, simply because our reality is so distorted around these division points with false feminine, with this overt feminine, new age feminists, and the shame and the wrongness of men. But that's also crumbling. All of it's starting to be exposed. All of it's being seen. These women that are holding this distorted dark feminine energy is showing their covert manipulation, showing the aspects that have allured you into a false illusion of seduction and lust. These 7 deadly sins that we are all being and have been controlled by are starting to be really obvious in our experience, because they don't resonate with the earth and where we're walking, and they don't have the same hold. The trickery, the infiltration that's keeping us from our unified self is being exposed. Um, so what is helpful at this point in time is to go into your own self of, where am I dividing myself based on man or woman stories? Stories about who I am as a woman, or stories about who I am as a man, and also the story of why I need or don't need the opposite sex in my life. Why I've decided that relationships I'm better without them. Why I've decided that women are just too toxic to be in my experience, and they're all too wounded and they don't see me. Why I am deciding what is the narrative, the construct, the story that I've created about man or woman as to why I don't want them. and starting to deconstruct those false matrix paradigms so that we can deconstruct the final constructs of these paradigms that are keeping us from union with self and with other, because they coexist every time. You can't have full union with self if you're not unified in the mirrors of the others that you're looking at. If you can't see them as you, then you can't have that union here. And that's what we're walking into is I am a unified being and I see that you are a unified being and we are going to come into that together and walk that path together. That's how we rise. That's how we truly connect. That's how we bring this new earth. It is through the man and woman pillars. It isn't one before the other, but we have to pull apart these enmeshed, merged, messed up places where we've taken things as of ourselves in a distorted narrative that this is what makes us whole. I love you. If you enjoy these transmissions, please donate. I realize that my donation link has been broken, so I will make sure the full donation link is there. It is in my link tree. And have an amazing weekend and allow for the juiciness of life to allow you to move through the discomfort of it, because it will give you a little bit more fun, giggles, and laugh at yourself instead of shame yourself. I love you.